The transport ship dropped Minho Park at the docking bay of Station Epsilon 7 on a cold Tuesday morning. He stepped out carrying a single bag and wearing the standard cadet uniform that felt too tight around his shoulders. The station stretched out before him like a metal city floating in space. Bigger than anything he had ever seen back on Earth. Nobody came to greet him. Minho stood in the docking bay for 20 minutes, watching other cadets being welcomed by senior officers and shown to their quarters. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some had forearms. Some had scales instead of skin. One cadet floated past him without legs, just a glowing energy field holding their body together. They all ignored the human standing alone with his bag. Finally, a small flying creature approached him. It had feathers that shimmered blue and gold and eyes that looked too large for its head. "You are the human," it said. Not a question. Just a statement. "Cadet Minho Park reporting for duty," Minho said, offering a salute. The creature did not return the salute. "I am Instructor Krill, follow me. Try not to touch anything." It flew away without checking if Minho followed. The walk to his quarters took 15 minutes through corridors filled with cadets who stared at him like he was a museum exhibit. Some whispered to each other in languages his translator could not catch. Others simply moved away when he got close, as if being human was contagious. His quarters were located in the oldest section of the station. The door stuck when it opened. Inside, the room was half the size of the other cadet quarters he had glimpsed while walking. A narrow bed, a small desk, and a storage locker that would not close properly. The environmental controls were set for a species that preferred cold temperatures. Minho's breath made clouds in the air. "Ration dispenser is down the hall," Krill said from the doorway. "Training begins at 600 station time. Do not be late. Commander Vextar does not tolerate weakness." The instructor flew away before Minho could ask any questions. Minho set his bag on the bed and sat down. The mattress was hard as stone and shaped wrong for a human body. He looked around his new home and tried not to think about the comfortable apartment he had left behind on Earth. His mother had cried when he left. His father had shaken his hand and told him to make humanity proud. No pressure, Minho thought. He found the ration dispenser an hour later. It took him 3 tries to figure out how to work the alien interface. When he finally got it to produce food, the nutrient paste it gave him smelled like chemicals and tasted worse. The dispenser was programmed for dozens of species, but humans were not in its database. Minho ate it anyway. He would need energy for tomorrow. That night he barely slept. The bed was uncomfortable. The room was too cold, and every noise in the station sounded like something was wrong. He kept thinking about why he was here. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 2 years ago. Most of the galaxy still thought humans were primitive and violent. The Council had agreed to let one human into the military academy as a test. Just one. If Minho failed, the door would close for every human who came after him. At 600 the next morning, Minho stood in the training hall with 200 other cadets. Commander Vextar entered the room and everyone fell silent. The commander was tall, covered in dark green scales with eyes like a snake and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He moved with the grace of a predator. "Welcome to the Galactic Defense Corps Academy," Vextar said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You have been selected from your species as the best and brightest. Most of you will fail. Some of you will quit. A few will graduate and earn the honor of defending our galaxy." His eyes found Minho in the crowd and stopped. "This year we have something unusual, a human. From Earth. A species with no military tradition worthy of respect. A species that spent most of its history killing itself." He smiled, showing all his teeth. "Cadet Park is here because the Council believes in giving chances. I believe in standards. We will see which belief is stronger." The other cadets turned to look at Minho. He kept his eyes forward and his face blank, the way his father had taught him. The first training exercise was endurance running. The cadets had to run 50 kilometers on a track that simulated different gravity levels. Minho started strong, but by kilometer 20 he was struggling. His legs burned. His lungs felt like fire. The track kept changing gravity, and his body could not adjust as fast as the other species. A cadet with 6 legs ran past him easily. "Struggling already, human?" It called out. "Maybe you should quit now and save yourself the pain." Minho did not answer. He focused on putting one foot in front of the other. By kilometer 40 he was in last place. His vision was blurry from sweat and exhaustion. Every part of his body screamed at him to stop. He did not stop. When he finally crossed the finish line, most of the other cadets had already left for their next training session. Instructor Krill was waiting with a data pad. Last place, the avian said, making a note. 42 minutes behind the second-to-last cadet. This does not look good for you, human. I finished, Minho said between gasps for air. Barely. Krill flew closer, studying him with those large eyes. Why do you even try? You are not built for this. Your species is too weak, too slow. You will never match the physical abilities of real warriors. Minho straightened up, ignoring the pain in his legs. Then I will work twice as hard. Something flickered in Krill's eyes. Surprise, maybe, or pity. The next exercise begins in 10 minutes. Combat simulation. You should rest while you can. Minho did not rest. He went to the combat simulation chamber and studied the controls while he waited for the others to arrive. If he could not match the other cadets in physical ability, he would need to be smarter. Faster at thinking, better at adapting. The combat simulation was a disaster. Minho was paired against a Kronar cadet named Draxus, who was twice his size and covered in natural armor. The simulation put them in a zero-gravity environment, which Draxus was used to and Minho was not. The fight lasted 30 seconds. Draxus moved like a dancer in zero gravity, using all 4 arms to pin Minho against a wall. Humans are supposed to be dangerous, Draxus said, almost sounding disappointed. You fight like a child. That evening, Minho limped back to his quarters. His body was covered in bruises. He had failed every training exercise. The other cadets had stopped even acknowledging him. In their eyes, he was already gone. He found a package waiting outside his door. Inside was a modified nutrient pack with a note written in English. This should work better for human metabolism. Keep going. We are watching. Hana Minho did not know who Hana was, but the food tasted better than anything he had eaten since arriving. As he ate, he thought about Commander Vextar's words. The commander was right about one thing. Humans had spent most of their history fighting. Not against aliens, but against their own planet. Against predators that were bigger and stronger. Against weather that tried to freeze them or burn them. Against each other when necessary. Humans had survived because they refused to quit. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because when everything tried to kill them, they learned to fight back with everything they had. Minho finished his food and lay down on the uncomfortable bed. Tomorrow would be harder. The day after that would be worse. But he would not quit. He would not be the reason humanity failed. Outside his window, the stars stretched out forever. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting to see if their representative would survive. Minho closed his eyes and tried to sleep. The station made its strange noises around him. In the distance, he could hear other cadets laughing and talking. He was alone in a place that did not want him, surrounded by species that thought he was too weak to matter. They would learn, he thought. They would all learn what humans were really made of. 3 weeks passed, and Minho remained at the bottom of every ranking. Combat scores, tactical exams, endurance tests. He failed them all by the Academy's standards, but he never quit. And that seemed to bother Commander Vextar more than actual failure would have. You are wasting everyone's time, the commander told him after another poor performance. Your species does not belong here. Why do you continue this embarrassment? Minho stood at attention, his body aching from the day's exercises. Because I was sent here to prove humans can serve, sir. I cannot do that by quitting. Vextar's scales rippled with what might have been anger or amusement. Then we will increase your training intensity. If you want to stay so badly, let us see how much you can truly endure. The next morning, Minho found his schedule had changed. While other cadets had rest periods built into their day, his schedule was packed solid. Extra combat drills, additional endurance runs, tactical simulations that lasted hours longer than anyone else's. The Academy was trying to bury him under impossible demands. He met Hana for the first time in the station's observation deck. She was small for a human, with kind eyes and oil stains on her uniform. I am a technical specialist in training, she explained. I work on ship systems and station maintenance. Not as glamorous as being a combat cadet, but someone has to keep the engines running. Thank you for the food, Minho said. It saved me, Hana smiled. I figured the Academy was not going to make things easy for you. I have been modifying the nutrient packs with supplements that humans need. You can't fight if you are starving. She paused. How are you holding up? Honestly, terrible. I am last in everything. The other cadets think I am a joke. The instructors want me to quit. Minho looked out at the stars. But I cannot quit. Too many people are counting on me. That is a heavy burden for one person. It is the burden I chose. Minho turned to face her. How long have you been here? 6 months. I am part of the support staff program. Less prestigious than combat training, so nobody pays much attention to me. That gives me freedom to move around and help where I can. Hana handed him another package. Keep these hidden. If Vextar finds out I am helping you, he will make problems for both of us. The enhanced training protocols pushed Minho to his absolute limits. Every muscle in his body hurt. He slept only 4 hours a night because he had to study tactical manuals after training ended. The cold in his quarters made recovery harder. But slowly, something started to change. His body began to adapt. The runs that had destroyed him 3 weeks ago were now merely painful. His reflexes in combat simulations got faster. His mind learned to process tactical information more quickly under pressure. It was not enough to move him off the bottom of the rankings, but the gap was closing. Instructor Krill noticed. You are improving, the avian said one day after a training session. Not by much, but measurably. How? I practice more than anyone else, Minho answered simply. You practice more because you have to. The commander is giving you an impossible schedule. Krill's feathers ruffled. He wants you to break. Then he will be disappointed. A month into his training, Admiral Kelthros arrived at the station. He was a tall, thin being who seemed to be made of liquid metal that held a humanoid shape. He represented the High Council and had come to evaluate the human experiment as the official reports called it. Minho was brought before the Admiral in a private meeting room. Commander Vextar stood to one side, clearly hoping for bad news. Cadet Park, Kelthros said, his voice sounding like water flowing over stones. Your performance has been studied by the Council. Your ranking is dead last in your training class. You have failed to meet minimum standards in 16 different categories, yet you refuse to resign. Explain yourself. Minho chose his words carefully. Sir, the standards were designed for species that evolved with different advantages. I am slower than 6-legged runners. I am weaker than species with natural armor. I cannot communicate telepathically like hive mind species, but humans have other strengths, such as, we do not quit. Not when things get hard, not when we are outmatched. My planet tried to kill my species every day for millions of years. We survive because we learned to adapt and keep fighting no matter what. Minho met the Admiral's eyes. Give me time and I will prove that persistence matters as much as natural advantages. Kelthros was silent for a long moment. Your species has a violent history. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that could destroy your entire planet. How do we know you will not bring that violence here? Because we learned from our mistakes, Minho said. Yes, humans fought each other. But we also learned to work together when facing bigger threats. We are not perfect, but we are trying to be better. That should count for something. The Admiral turned to Vextar. What is your assessment, Commander? The human cannot meet our standards. He lacks the physical and mental capabilities required for galactic military service. I recommend termination of the program. Vextar's tone was cold and final. I see. Kelthros looked back at Minho. You will undergo the Crucible trial in 1 week. This is a survival test that all cadets must pass. Given your current performance level, I do not expect you to succeed. If you fail, humanity's application to the Defense Corps will be reviewed and likely denied. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Dismissed. Minho left the room with his heart pounding. The Crucible was notorious. It was a week-long test in a hostile environment simulator. Cadets had to survive, complete mission objectives, and return alive. The failure rate was high even for the best cadets. Hana found him in the observation deck that night. I heard about the Crucible. They are putting you in early. Most cadets train for months before they face it. They want me to fail in a way that looks legitimate, Minho said quietly. If I just wash out of regular training, it looks like discrimination. But if I fail the Crucible, they can say I was given a fair chance and simply was not good enough. What will you do? The only thing I can do. Prepare as much as possible and refuse to give up. He looked at her. Can you get me information about the simulator? Past scenarios, environmental conditions, anything that might help? That is against regulations. I know. But if I fail, you lose your chance at a career here too. They will use me as proof that humans do not belong in the Corps. Minho's voice was firm. I am not asking you to cheat for me. I am asking for information that might keep me alive long enough to complete the mission. Hana was quiet for a long time. Then she nodded. I will see what I can find. The next 7 days were the hardest of Minho's life. He trained harder than ever, pushing his body past exhaustion. He studied survival techniques from Earth's harshest environments. He memorized equipment specifications and emergency protocols. Hana provided him with data on the simulator's past scenarios, and Minho analyzed every detail. The other cadets heard about his crucible assignment. Draxus approached him in the training hall. Human, I have completed the crucible. It nearly killed me, and I am bred for war. You will not survive it. Maybe not, Minho admitted, but I will try my best. Why? Draxus seemed genuinely curious. You owe nothing to these people. They have treated you terribly. You could go home and no one would blame you. I would blame me. Minho paused his workout to face the larger cadet. My species is trying to join something bigger than ourselves. If I quit now, I am telling the galaxy that humans give up when things get hard. That is not the message I want to send. Draxus studied him with those alien eyes. You are either very brave or very stupid. I have not decided which. Can it be both? For the first time, Draxus made a sound that might have been laughter. On the morning of the crucible, Minho stood in the simulator prep room. Technicians fitted him with basic survival gear, a water filtration unit, a multi-tool, an emergency beacon, and minimal rations. The gear was standard issue, not optimized for human use. Commander Vextar addressed him over the intercom. You will be dropped into a Class 4 hostile environment. Your mission is to reach the extraction point 300 kilometers from your starting position. You have 7 days. Most cadets completed in 5. Given your performance so far, I expect you to activate your emergency beacon within 24 hours. Understood. Sir, Minho replied, his voice steady. One more thing. Cadet Park. The scenario you are entering has been adjusted for your physical capabilities. We would not want anyone to say you were given an impossible task. There was something in Vextar's tone that suggested the opposite was true. The simulator activated, and Minho's world dissolved into light. When his vision cleared, he was standing in hell. The heat hit him first. The air was filled with ash and toxic fumes. Volcanic rock stretched in every direction under a dark red sky. In the distance, he could see lava flows and smoke pillars. Sensors in his suit immediately warned him that the atmosphere was partially toxic, and the temperature was dangerously high. Minho checked his equipment and started walking. The mission had begun, and failure was not an option. Minho walked through the volcanic wasteland for 6 hours before he stopped to assess his situation. The heat was brutal. His suit's cooling system was working at maximum capacity and barely keeping him alive. The toxic fumes forced him to breathe through a filter that would only last 3 days according to the indicator. He found shelter in a cave formed by ancient lava flows. Inside, the temperature dropped enough for him to think clearly. He pulled out his data pad and checked the map. 300 kilometers to the extraction point across terrain that would kill most species. The Academy was watching, cameras hidden throughout the simulator transmitted his every move back to the observation room where Commander Vextar and the instructors waited for him to fail, but Minho had no intention of making it easy for them. He spent the first night in the cave analyzing his resources. The water filtration unit could pull moisture from the air, but not much in this dry heat. The rations would last 4 days if he was careful. The multi-tool had 17 functions, none of them designed with human hands in mind. While other cadets might have focused on speed, Minho focused on survival. He used the multi-tool to chip away at volcanic rock, creating a crude blade. He fashioned a face covering from part of his uniform to reduce filter usage. He found an underground stream in the cave and used his knowledge of Earth geology to determine if it was safe to drink after filtration. On day 2, the simulator sent the first predators. They were drone-controlled creatures designed to test a cadet's combat skills. 4-legged, fast, with sensors that could track heat signatures. Minho heard them coming before he saw them. The clicking sound of claws on rock echoed through the wasteland. He had no weapons except his improvised blade and his brain. He did not try to fight them directly. Instead, he used the volcanic terrain against them. He led them toward an unstable lava field where the ground was brittle. When the first predator charged, Minho dodged at the last second. The creature's weight crashed through the thin crust, plunging it into the magma below. The other three became more cautious. They circled him, looking for an opening. Minho grabbed handfuls of ash and volcanic dust, throwing it in clouds to confuse their sensors. When one got close, he struck with his stone blade at its joints where the armor was weakest. It was not a clean fight. Minho took hits. Claws raked across his arm, tearing through his suit sleeve. But he survived, and the predators eventually retreated when their programming decided he was too much trouble. In the observation room, Instructor Krill watched the footage with surprise. He is using guerrilla tactics, fighting like prey that knows it cannot win a direct confrontation. Commander Vextar frowned. He is barely surviving. This proves nothing. He has been in the simulator for 2 days. Most cadets call for extraction by now if they are struggling. He has not even checked his emergency beacon. Krill's large eyes studied the screen. I think we may have miscalculated something about this human. On day 3, Minho's situation worsened. His water supply was critically low. The heat had damaged his suit's cooling system. His arm was infected where the predator had clawed him. He was exhausted and in constant pain. A normal cadet would have activated the emergency beacon. The mission could be attempted again after recovery. There was no shame in recognizing when conditions had become impossible. Minho kept walking. He used his knowledge of Earth's volcanic regions to find underground water sources. He treated his infection with minerals from the rock and heat from geothermal vents, a technique that would have horrified a medical professional but actually worked. He repaired his cooling system using parts from his datapad, sacrificing his ability to check the map for the ability to not die from heat stroke. Each step was a small victory against a simulator designed to break him. On day 4, something strange happened. Minho found a section of the wasteland where the volcanic activity had created a maze of obsidian formations. Sharp black glass jutted from the ground at odd angles, beautiful and deadly. He heard sounds ahead, not predators, voices. Minho approached carefully and found 2 cadets from his training class. They were both injured and arguing in a language his translator barely understood. When they saw him, they fell silent. One was a floating energy being named Lysra. The other was a crystalline creature called Thule. Both were ranked far above Minho in every category. "You are the human," Lysra said, her energy field pulsing weakly. "They put you in the crucible? You are not ready." "Neither of you look ready right now," Minho observed. "What happened?" Thule's crystalline body had cracks running through it. "We entered the simulator 2 days ago. We were supposed to work together as a team exercise, but we encountered a predator swarm. I was damaged. Lysra exhausted her energy reserves protecting me. We cannot make it to the extraction point in our condition." Minho studied them both. He was barely surviving himself. Taking on 2 injured cadets would slow him down and use up his limited resources. The smart play was to wish them luck and keep moving. "Can you walk?" he asked instead. "Slowly," Thule admitted. "Then we go together. I have water and knowledge of the terrain. You must have skills I need. We help each other." Lysra's energy field brightened slightly. "You would help us? We ignored you, treated you like you did not matter. Right now we are all just cadets trying not to die in a simulation," Minho said. "We can deal with the other stuff after we survive." The 3 of them moved together through the obsidian maze. Minho shared his water. Thule used his crystalline body to refract light, creating signals they could use to navigate. Lysra, despite her depleted energy, could sense predators approaching before they arrived. On day 5, they encountered the largest predator swarm yet. 12 drones converging on their position with no easy escape route. "I cannot fight them," Lysra said, her energy field flickering. "I am too weak. My body is too damaged," Thule added. "We should activate our beacons." Minho looked at the approaching swarm and made a decision. "Give me 30 seconds. When I signal, run for that lava tube to the east. Do not stop, do not look back." "What are you going to do?" "Something stupid." Minho smiled grimly. "Humans are good at that." He ran toward the predators, not away from them. The drones, programmed to chase prey, focused entirely on him. Minho led them in a wide circle around the obsidian formations, using every trick he had learned. He threw rocks to distract them. He used the sharp glass to wound their legs. He made himself the most annoying target possible. When the drones were completely focused on him, Minho ran toward an unstable lava field he had marked earlier. He crossed it carefully, knowing exactly where the solid ground was. The drones, heavier and faster, crashed through the brittle surface. One by one, they fell into the magma below. Minho made it to the other side with 3 drones still chasing him. He was exhausted, wounded, and out of tricks. He pulled out his stone blade and prepared for a fight he knew he could not win. Then Thule appeared, using his damaged crystalline body to reflect sunlight directly into the drone's sensors. The light was so bright it overloaded their systems. Lysera, despite her weakness, released a pulse of energy that shut down the remaining drone's electronics. The 3 cadets stood together in the wasteland, breathing hard and barely standing. That was insane, Lysera said. It worked, though, Minho pointed out. Thule made a sound like grinding glass that might have been laughter. The human is crazy, but effective. They reached the extraction point on day 6, a full day ahead of schedule. The 3 of them stood on the designated platform, dirty and damaged but alive. The simulator shut down. The volcanic wasteland dissolved back into the plain white walls of the simulator chamber. Doors opened, and medical teams rushed in to attend to the cadets. Commander Vextar was waiting outside with a data pad and an expression like he had bitten into something sour. Cadet Park, you completed the mission a day early, unprecedented for someone of your ranking. I had help, sir, Minho said, nodding toward Lysera and Thule. Yes. About that. Vextar's eyes narrowed. The Crucible is an individual test. You were not supposed to work with other cadets. The mission parameters said to reach the extraction point. They did not say I had to do it alone. Minho kept his voice respectful but firm. On a real mission, would you want soldiers who abandon their teammates when things get hard? Instructor Krill flew down from the observation deck. The human is correct, Commander. The rules do not forbid cooperation. In fact, showing initiative and adaptability are part of what we test for. Vextar looked like he wanted to argue, but other instructors were gathering. News of what happened in the simulator was spreading fast. A last-place human cadet had not only survived the Crucible, but had saved 2 higher-ranked cadets in the process. Draxus pushed through the crowd. The large Kronar looked at Minho with something new in his eyes. I said you were brave or stupid. I have decided. You are both, and that makes you dangerous. Dangerous? Minho was too tired for this conversation. Dangerous to be around because you do not quit even when you should. You will get yourself killed someday. Draxus paused. But also dangerous to be against. You survived conditions that should have killed you. You saved others when you could barely save yourself. I do not understand your species, human, but I respect what you did in there. After the Crucible, Minho thought things might get easier. He was wrong. Admiral Kelthros returned to the station with new orders. Commander Vextar called Minho to his office 3 days after the simulation ended. The commander's expression was harder than usual. Admiral Kelthros has reviewed your Crucible performance, Vextar said, his scaled fingers tapping on his desk. The Council is concerned. You succeeded, yes, but your methods were unorthodox. Reckless. They want to ensure you are psychologically stable enough for military service. What does that mean, sir? It means you will undergo the Cage Protocol. Vexitar's smile showed too many teeth. It is a psychological evaluation program designed to test mental endurance. You should be honored. Usually only senior cadets face the cage. Minho felt ice in his stomach. He had heard whispers about the Cage Protocol. Cadets who went through it came back different. Some quit immediately after. Others had nightmares for months. No one talked about what actually happened inside. When do I start? Tomorrow morning. Get your affairs in order, Cadet Park. This will be more difficult than any physical challenge you have faced. That evening, Hana found Minho in the observation deck. He was staring at Earth, a small blue dot visible through the windows among countless stars. I heard about the cage, she said quietly. Minho, this is not normal procedure. They are trying to break you in a way that does not look like discrimination. I know. His voice was flat. What do you know about it? Hana hesitated. Not much. It is classified. But I have seen cadets after they complete it. Strong cadets, trained warriors. They come out shaking. Some cry. One cadet I knew never spoke again. Just processed his discharge papers and left the station. That is not encouraging. The record for time in the cage is 3 days. That is held by a species known for incredible mental fortitude. Most cadets last hours before they use the emergency stop. Hana touched his arm gently. You do not have to do this. You proved yourself in the crucible. No one would blame you for refusing. Yes, they would. They would say humans are strong enough for physical challenges but too weak mentally, that we are unstable. Minho turned to face her. I have to do this. For everyone who comes after me. That is not fair. One person should not carry the weight of an entire species. Fair or not, here we are. He managed a weak smile. Will you do something for me? If I do not come out of this, okay? If I wash out or break, tell my family I tried my best. You are coming out of this, Hana said firmly, because you are too stubborn to do anything else. The next morning, medical technicians prepped Minho in a white room that smelled like disinfectant. They attached sensors to his head, chest, and arms. They explained the emergency stop protocol. If he pressed a button in his hand, the simulation would end immediately. No shame, no judgment, they said. The cage protocol was designed to push cadets beyond their limits. What exactly will I experience in there? Minho asked. That varies by individual, a technician with 4 eyes answered. The program reads your psychology and adapts. It finds what you fear, what you value, what you cannot stand to lose. Then it uses those things against you. That sounds like torture. It is psychological stress testing, the technician corrected. Soldiers must be able to endure mental pressure as well as physical. The cage reveals whether you have the mental resilience required for service. They gave him an injection that made his vision blur. The room started to spin. Minho felt himself falling even though he was lying down. Voices echoed around him, speaking in languages he almost understood but not quite. Then everything went black. When Minho opened his eyes, he was standing on Earth. Not the Earth he knew, but something wrong. The sky was the right blue but streaked with fire. Buildings stood broken and burning. The air smelled like ash and death. People ran past him screaming. He recognized some faces. His mother. His father. Hana. They ran from something Minho could not see. Terror in their eyes. He tried to follow them, but his legs would not move. He was frozen in place, forced to watch as the world burned around him. A voice spoke in his head. Neither male nor female, just cold and analytical. This is the result of your failure, Cadet Park. Earth petitioned for entry into the Galactic Council. You were sent as proof that humans could meet our standards. You failed. The Council rejected Earth's membership. Without galactic protection, your world fell to raiders who saw an undefended planet full of resources. No, Minho whispered. This is not real. Does it matter? This is what could happen. This is what will happen if you are not strong enough. Look at them. Look at what your weakness costs. His mother fell, struck by something Minho could not see. She reached toward him, her mouth forming his name. Then she was gone, dissolved into ash. The scene shifted. Now Minho stood in the Academy training hall. Commander Vextar addressed a crowd of cadets. Let the human experiment be a lesson, Vextar said. We gave them a chance. We lowered our standards, made accommodations, tried to help them succeed, but they failed anyway. This proves that some species are simply not meant for military service. We will not make this mistake again. The crowd cheered. Draxus was there, nodding in agreement. Even Instructor Krill looked satisfied. Minho tried to speak, to defend himself, but no words came out. The voice in his head returned. They knew you would fail. They were waiting for it. Now Earth's chance is gone forever because you were not good enough. The scene shifted again and again. Each scenario was a new nightmare. Minho watched his planet die a dozen different ways. He saw friends and family suffer because of his failures. He experienced betrayal, loss, and hopelessness in variations that felt sickeningly real. Time stopped meaning anything. Minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. The cage broke down his sense of reality until Minho could not remember what was simulation and what was memory. In the observation room, technicians monitored his vital signs and neural activity. Commander Vextar watched the readouts with satisfaction. 6 hours, he said. Respectable for a first attempt, but he is breaking. Look at his stress markers. Another hour and he will press the emergency stop. But Instructor Krill was looking at different data. Commander, his neural patterns are unusual. His stress levels are high, yes, but they are not increasing. They peaked at hour 4 and have been steady since then. What does that mean? I'm not certain. It is like his mind is adapting to the stress rather than being overwhelmed by it. Inside the cage, something was indeed changing. Minho had endured the nightmares for so long that a part of his brain started recognizing patterns. The scenarios were horrible, but they repeated elements. The voice that spoke to him used the same psychological triggers over and over. It was a program. A sophisticated one, but still just a program. Minho stopped trying to fight the scenarios emotionally. Instead, he began analyzing them clinically. When the simulation showed him Earth burning, he looked for inconsistencies in the details. When it presented him with betrayal, he examined the logic. "You are adapting," the voice said, sounding different now, less certain. "That is not normal behavior. You should be broken by now." "I come from a planet that tried to break my species every day," Minho thought back. "We learned to endure." The scenarios became more aggressive, more personal. The program dug deeper into his fears and values, trying to find the thing that would make him press the emergency stop. It showed him dying alone and forgotten. It showed him succeeding, but at the cost of everyone he loved. It showed him 1,000 different ways to fail, each more painful than the last. Minho endured them all. At hour 12, the technicians became alarmed. His body should have forced an automatic shutdown by now. The stress hormones in his system should have triggered the safety protocols. "Can we pull him out manually?" Krill asked. "Not without potentially causing psychological damage. The cage needs to end naturally or through emergency stop. Those are the only safe options." Commander Vextar stared at the monitors. "Then we wait. He will break eventually." But Minho did not break. He had found something inside himself that the cage could not touch. It was not courage or strength. It was simpler than that. It was the fundamental human trait of stubborn persistence. The refusal to quit even when quitting made logical sense. At hour 18, the program tried something different. Instead of showing him failure and loss, it offered him success. It showed him graduating with honors. It showed him respect from his peers. It showed him Earth welcomed into the galactic community with full membership. All he had to do was press the button and end the test now. He would pass. Everyone would celebrate. The nightmare would stop. Minho almost pressed it. His hand tightened on the emergency stop button. It would be so easy. Then he thought about the technician's words. The cage was designed to push cadets beyond their limits. It found what you feared and what you valued and used them against you. This was still a test. The easy ending was still part of the cage. "No," he said out loud. "I stay until the program ends naturally. That is the real test, is it not? To endure until there is nothing left to throw at me." The voice was silent for a long moment. Then, "You understand now. Interesting." The scenario stopped. The nightmares faded. Minho found himself in a simple white room with nothing in it except his own thoughts. The program had run out of attacks and was simply making. When Minho woke up, he was in the medical bay. His body ached like he had run a marathon. His head felt like it was stuffed with cotton. Hana sat beside his bed, her eyes red from crying. "You were in there for 38 hours, she said when his eyes focused on her. "They had to do an emergency shutdown. The program was destroying itself trying to break you." "Did I pass?" His voice came out as a croak. "Pass? Minho, you broke their testing system. No one knows what to do with that." Hana helped him drink water. "Half the council thinks you are the most mentally resilient cadet they have ever seen. The other half thinks you are dangerously unstable because normal psychology does not work on you." Over the next 3 days, Minho recovered in medical. Doctors from a dozen species examined him, trying to understand how a human mind could endure the cage protocol for so long. Their tests found nothing wrong with him. He was tired, stressed, but psychologically intact. "Your brain chemistry is unusual," one doctor explained. "When most species experience extreme stress, their systems shut down to prevent damage. Your brain instead releases chemicals that increase focus and endurance. It is like your species evolved to function better under pressure. We call it adrenaline," Minho said. "It kept our ancestors alive when everything tried to eat them. It is more than that. Your species has mental adaptations for sustained stress that we have never documented before. You do not break under pressure. You sharpen." On the 4th day, Minho was summoned before the full Galactic Council. He walked into the chamber, still weak but standing straight. Every major species had a representative present. The room was filled with beings who could decide the fate of humanity with a single vote. Counselor Prime Euthella presided over the meeting. She was ancient, her form constantly shifting like living starlight. "Cadet Minho Park, you have presented us with an unusual problem. You have completed every test we designed, but not in ways we expected. You survived the Crucible through unconventional means. You endured the Cage protocol until the program itself failed. We do not know what to make of you. I am just a human trying to serve, Counselor, Minho said. You are more than that, and we both know it. Yathela's voice echoed through the chamber. You represent a question we must answer. Are humans suitable for military service, or are they too unpredictable to trust? Commander Vextar stood to present his case. Honored counselors, I have observed Cadet Park for months. He lacks the natural abilities of superior species. He cannot match their strength, speed, or mental capabilities. What he has instead is stubbornness that borders on mental deficiency. He refuses to quit even when logic demands it. This makes him dangerous and unreliable. Or it makes him exactly what we need, a new voice interjected. Fleet Marshal Corvin entered the chamber, his presence commanding immediate respect. He was a veteran of 100 battles, decorated and feared. I have reviewed all the data on the human cadet. Do you know what I see? I see a soldier who completes missions despite impossible odds, who saves teammates when he can barely save himself, who endures psychological torture that breaks trained warriors. These are not flaws. These are the qualities we claim to value. But he is unpredictable, another counselor argued. How do we control a species that does not respond to normal incentives or deterrents? You do not control them, Corvin said flatly. You point them at your enemies and stay out of their way. Admiral Kelthros stood. I have a question for Cadet Park. During the Cage protocol, you were offered an easy ending, a scenario where you succeeded and passed the test. You refused it. Why? Minho chose his words carefully. Because it was still part of the test, sir. The Cage was designed to find my breaking point. Accepting the easy ending would have been breaking. I stayed until the program had nothing left to throw at me. You risked permanent psychological damage for the principle of the thing. I risked it because humans who will come after me need the galaxy to understand something important. Minho looked around the chamber, meeting alien eyes without flinching. You tested me like you test other species. You tried to find my limit. But humans do not have the same limits as other species. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We survived not because we were strong or fast or smart. We survived because we refused to die. That is what makes us human. We do not quit. That sounds like a threat, someone muttered. It is not a threat. It is a promise. Minho's voice was steady. When you need someone to hold a position that cannot be held, send a human. When you need someone to complete a mission everyone says is impossible, send a human. When you need someone who will fight until their last breath for their teammates, send a human. We are not better than other species. We are just built different. Lysera, the energy being whom Minho had saved in the Crucible, entered the chamber. She was not supposed to speak, but she did anyway. Counselors, I was in the Crucible when I met Cadet Park. I was injured and depleted. By every logical measure, he should have left me behind to improve his own chances. Instead, he helped me reach extraction. He shared his water when he barely had enough for himself. He risked his life fighting predators to protect me and Cadet Thule. This is not the behavior of an unstable species. This is the behavior of someone who values life. Thule, the crystalline being, stepped forward as well. I have fought alongside warriors from many species. I have never met anyone who scared me until I met the human. Not because he is violent, but because he does not understand the concept of giving up. When we were surrounded by predators, he ran at them. Not because he thought he could win, but because it gave us a chance to escape. What species does that? A dangerous one, Commander Vextar insisted. Or a loyal one, Fleet Marshal Corvin countered. Every species in this council has weapons that could destroy worlds. Every species has the capacity for violence. But we trust each other because we share common values. The human has demonstrated loyalty, courage, and self-sacrifice. Those are the values we claim to uphold. If we reject him now, we admit that our values are words without meaning. The council debated for hours. Minho stood through all of it, his legs aching but refusing to show weakness. He watched representatives argue about humanity's place in the galaxy, about whether Earth deserved membership, about what his success or failure meant. Finally, Counselor Prime Withella called for silence. We have heard all arguments. Now we vote. Should humanity be granted full membership in the Galactic Defense Corps, with Cadet Minho Park as the first of many to serve? The vote was not unanimous. Nearly a third of the council voted against humanity. but the majority voted in favor. By order of this council, humanity is granted provisional membership in the Galactic Defense Corps. Cadet Minho Park will graduate and be commissioned as an officer. Furthermore, he is assigned to develop training protocols for future human cadets. We will see if one success was an anomaly or a preview of what humans can offer. Minho felt like he might collapse from relief, but he kept standing. Thank you, counselors. I will not disappoint you. You already have disappointed us, Yathela said, but there was something almost warm in her tone. We expected you to fail quickly and quietly. Instead, you forced us to reconsider assumptions we have held for centuries. That is disturbing and valuable in equal measure. Commander Vextar approached Minho after the session ended. I still believe you are a risk. But the council has spoken. I will be reassigned to a different post. Your new training officer will be Instructor Krill. Perhaps someone with a more open mind can make sense of your species. I hope we can prove worthy of the chance. Sir, Vextar studied him for a long moment. You know what the worst part is? I think you actually mean that. You genuinely want to serve. That is what I do not understand about humans. You have no logical reason to care so much, yet you do anyway. He turned and walked away without another word. Graduation day came 3 weeks later. Minho stood in his dress uniform alongside Draxus, Lysera, Thule, and 100 other cadets from dozens of species. They had all survived the Academy's brutal training. They had all earned the right to wear the uniform of the Galactic Defense Corps. When Minho's name was called, the applause was real. Not universal, not without reservation, but real. He had gone from the cadet everyone expected to fail to someone who had forced the entire galaxy to reconsider what humans could do. Draxus clasped his shoulder afterward. I told you that you were dangerous. I was right. Now you are going to train more humans to be just as dangerous as you. The galaxy will not know what hit it. Is that a complaint? No. It is a warning to your enemies. Draxus's 4 eyes gleamed with something like respect. I am glad humans are on our side. Hana found him after the ceremony, tears streaming down her face. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, Minho corrected. I would not have survived without your help. What happens now? Now I train others. The Council authorized Earth to send 50 humans for the next training cycle. I get to make sure they have a better experience than I did. Minho looked out at the stars visible through the station windows. And maybe eventually, humans become normal members of the Corps instead of curiosities. Captain Jiwan Lee, the Navy officer who had been secretly monitoring Minho's progress, appeared in full uniform.